And
Oh yeah, no, it's happening, man. Like, no, it's our place.
cool.
So, but it's just the
And
oh yeah, no, it's leaving this place up to par. I mean, there's nothing, it's just amazing how I don't know how people do it, man. They're just stuff. It's stuff. And it's like you can't do an incomplete, you know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
There's there's no half measures. You got to get all your stuff, and you got to get the place like cleaned up and all of it, dude. And it just seems to be going on now for a while. When did the pod leave? The pod was the first part of it, man. Was getting the pod filled, which was its own thing. And now it's the next phase is just getting this place 100% emptied out and out of my life, which is like another rental truck full of, but it's like a lot of like plants and it's just all the weird awkward stuff. So, and then it's just cleaning. Like I'm battling this one bathroom. It's soap scum's brutal to get through. It's that kind of a thing, man.
Yeah, no fun.
Yeah, you know how it is. You gotta leave it in a good condition, at least how you got it. But you've been living in it for like 2.5 years. So it's got that patina of like life has occurred. So you got to like kind of like scrub that away,
mm-hmm.
which is its own craziness. Like I finally got the backyard all completely like dialed in, kind of. But it took me like 2 hours just to move all of the plants and stuff from the backyard to the front of the house, just to get them in a manageable, like, so when it does, why won't this let me do this? So when it is time to go, I'm kind of on deck. I just want to get it over with, dude. My hands are raw. It's that kind of a vibe. Why won't this, come on, man. Hold on. It's giving me trouble. I want to cut and paste there it is. Let's go from the bottom. Always go from the bottom. I want to get your link in there. So anyway, we're here. We're here with Stuart, dude, on the geopolitical illusion. And I'm still in moving combat mode. It's taken over my life, dude. It is really taken over my life, this move.
It'll be worth it in the end.
Oh yeah, no, but it's that thing, you just want it to end at a certain point. Like, it isn't going to end until I pull away in the driveway. Cause I'm like that, you know what I mean? It's like, I could just bail and just be like, whatever, charge me, whatever, dude. I don't care. You got to deposit. Like, but I'm also like, fuck, man, it's like a lot of dough, dude. So I try to get it back. I think I will, but I'm battling this one bathroom. It's crazy town. But besides that, dude, everything's rad. Okay, I think I got everything dialed in here. All right, we are ready to rock and roll, dude. All right, we got Benjamin. Thanks everyone for dealing with me while I got this dialed in. It's a little echoey, but because there's no furniture in the house. So please excuse the echo. And so what's cooking? Here we are 2 weeks later, dude. It's still going on, man.
Yeah, 2 weeks later. The bombs are still dropping.
Well, it's funny. I think my first thing I said even before this began is you're going up against a country that has a 1920s mentality, dude. Of they don't seem to be sweating anything the West is offering up, man. They ain't hurting, dude. It's us who's going to take the heel on this one.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess, and I don't think not too much has really shifted in terms of the current geopolitical reality and geopolitical illusion over the last couple of weeks. But it's good to be back here and back on our regularly scheduled hour of programming at the right time on the right day. So that's good for us.
Totally. Well, it's funny because a month ago it was the mushroom clouds were coming to take us all down, and I think we've dodged that. I think that bullet has been dodged for now.
Yeah, thankfully. Yeah, I think both
out of
sides
Sean Penhouse's way, dude. The beautiful thing is you get to really see who the everyone's kind of what's what the Klingons used to say when they uncloaked,
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that Sean Penn and Sean Hannity are buddies now all of a sudden when it comes to warmongering for the state.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be pretty obvious that it's all about the warmonger, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've even seen a few places and individuals in the alternative media sphere that haven't come out against this to the degree that I think they should have. And they've spent way too much time on it's all the West's fault, and Putin was basically justified in doing this. Well, good luck with that logic, as we like you said, dodged the nuclear bullet. But yeah, I'm still trying to cover this stuff to the degree that I can over on my channel. Still looking really at that military industrial complex, thinking through all the money and that sort of stuff that's been going on. Trying to hit 3,000 subscribers. That's my current goal.
Oh, good for you. You're almost up to 3G, dude.
Yeah, so I've got a very old channel, and I've done the videos on and off over the best part of a decade, really. But yeah, I would like to hit that 3Gs soon. So anyone who wants to come over and subscribe, I would welcome it.
There's the links down below to Stuart's channel.
Yeah, that would be great. And I'm putting out a big, probably hour-long lecture, maybe tomorrow, but maybe Monday, which I actually delivered at my little university out here in Oklahoma. And that's all about WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. So we can maybe touch on that for a bit of a change of topic if you want.
What's up with Julian? He's languishing in prison still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awaiting the signature on his extradition order at this point.
Yeah, the Julian thing is so bizarre. Well, I guess it's not really, but yeah, he is definitely the taking it on the chin.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty heavily.
So I did that this past week. I also did another radio show this past week as well. This guy who runs the Geopolitics and Empire podcast. You ever heard of that? That's that's worth checking out. That was fun. He's doing like a weekly radio show now for about 3 hours a day, I think. So I was on there for an hour on Thursday. That was fun. But yeah, I'm actually trying to I guess become a public academic to some degree. I think that would be a good move for me generally, and also for academia. I think academia needs less ivory towers and more open books and people willing to talk publicly and share information and bring out new perspectives and really do something, I think, to a great degree remedy the really negative image that I think academia has in a lot of circles right now. I'm trying to fulfill that role to a degree, and making some inroads here and there. So got the radio show appearance, got these appearances, and yeah, slowly but surely getting out there in terms of some public view. I honestly think it's the suit at this point, though. It's just the suit has caught people's attention.
well, dude, is you know, you're angling to be the asset, dude. we'll know when they've captured you, Stuart. We'll definitely know, dude. You'll have that academic beard going on.
Yeah, there you go.
You know,
and it'll be the tweed suit instead of these ones.
Yeah, exactly, man. But yeah, that's a good trajectory. Nothing like, I have a buddy of mine who's been on this channel. My buddy Chris Garcia, dude. He does all that stuff. You get paid pretty well, man. It's a good paycheck if you can be one of the squares on one of the lamestream medias.
Yeah, I doubt I'll be invited on any of those anytime soon. But
well, that's what I'm saying.
That's the point that's when you'll know. Yeah,
that's when I'll know, dude.
When I'm on,
you won't be returning calls, and you'll be hyping the latest in military hardware.
Exactly.
To save. You know, it's funny. So I've been watching the Clone Wars, right, with Owl on. You know, it's like the Star Wars I Never Bother to See, because the cartoon stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, man, it's pretty apt for what's going on right now. Like I will say, like, I'm Clone Wars season 1, somewhere around episode 15. It's a pretty good overlay with what is going on right now. It's pretty interesting. And it's funny where they were just doing one where the separatists, which is soon to be the Empire, is holding this like planet hostage and using these people as human shields and the whole thing. And you know, the military machine must roll. And it's very interesting because the good guys claim that they bump into this group of this one planet of peaceful people. And they're like, no, we're not participating. And they're like calling them cowards, and you need to fight for freedom, and this whole thing, and this weird peer pressure. And they're like, dude, you just showing up here has brought trouble to our thing. And then trouble shows up, you know, regardless. And they have to join the thing. It's very, I see it as very apt for what I see going on over there I am about empathy, but I have zero sympathy, man. Like, those people got exactly what was sitting there knocking on their door, dude. Like that's why I kept sending you those videos, because I went down the rabbit hole of like looking at that sort of backpacker touring around Ukraine a couple years in between 14 and last year. And dude, these guys are walking through rubbleized cities talking about how hectic it is. And it doesn't have the geopolitical slant it does nowadays. So when everybody starts hoisting their blue and yellow flags, you go, well, dude, none of those people were sitting, like, either those people were like doe-eyed and just that clueless, which again, ignorance is no excuse, or they just knew it was inevitable. I think the rural and village people seem to have been more tuned in than the elites in Kiev and these other cities. I think those people were like, oh, wow.
Yeah, there's usually a pretty big disconnect between those different types of people. Where you live has a very real impact on the sort of political viewpoint that you will have.
Yeah, it seems to be, once again, the people in the Emerald cities. You know, it's like there's one lady, I think in that one I sent you, there's like about 15 minutes into it, there's that one lady who basically says it, dude, when something to the equivalent of, when the slave masters fight, we pay the price. Mm-hmm. Yeah. that's where I don't. It's again, it's all these people of stepping right into it across the world, man.
Yeah, I think like you were saying, those Star Wars kind of had it all figured out.
or maybe they didn't have it figured out. Maybe this is just obvious human scripting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, it's
just what humans do. Power politics, stabbing each other in the back, false flags, all this sort of stuff.
Well, and then you go circle right back to it, Julian Assange, right?
Mm-hmm.
How the world really didn't truly stand up for him. Even the people even a guy like me who's fully for Julian Assange, like, what did I do, dude? Mm-hmm. I talked about it, but did I actually go and like chain myself to a building downtown
to your local Ecuadorian embassy?
Well, even that, again, as the Ecuadorians were sort of got caught in the middle of the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Who again is the bad guys on this deal,
Mm-hmm. It's extremely complicated.
Well, that's where all the Orange Man lovers, again, one of the things with the Orange Man is he wasn't about Assange. The Orange Man was going to send him down the river just as quick as Sleepy Joe or Obama or mm-hmm. Hillary or any of them. So,
yeah, Pompeo, his CIA director, actually came out and publicly labeled WikiLeaks as the foreign intelligence service that was targeting the United States. So therefore, it could open up the doors to the full gamut of CIA capabilities that could be implemented against the organization and against Assange. And then, also the Democrats very much responsible for targeting him as well. And that organization, Hillary Clinton, came out that in a meeting, she said, can't we just drone this guy? So clearly no lessons learned at all from any American political elites. You'd think that, maybe all these revelations that demonstrate that drone strikes and all this sort of techno-military force actually doesn't bring about good outcomes, and you see them immediately revert to type, right? Can't we just drone Assange? Can't we just have the CIA break into the embassy and grab this guy and kidnap him, which was actually planned, and they thought that it might lead to a gunfight on the streets of London with the British police. But who cares? We've got to get this guy Assange. Overall, generally not a good situation at all.
Well, so that's what's so funny when I like you bump into that, and it kind of goes to this weird. It almost ties into my whole "there are no nukes" thing. Is for all intents and purposes they can. Why don't they? I think is the deeper fundamental. I think that's where I think that we are scratching the wrong surface, or we're looking at the wrong iceberg, so to speak. If we're looking at a field of icebergs and we're monkeying with the obvious ones, the military industrial complex, big pharma, the war machine, these things, they almost seem to be decoys from what's really going on, because they could have just smoked Assange anywhere along the way and nobody, you know what I mean? They could have microwaved him. For all you know, that's why he was wiping poop on the wall, was they did microwave him, right? But that the big thing that they couldn't get to him because he was in a building in downtown London always reeked of me as disingenuous. like come on, we got that. I mean that's the difference is when they want to claim, what they were rousting Putin for the poison darts and his opposition and the whole thing. So Putin over there, who is they want to claim is an inept autocrat within some backwater on the planet, he's sending poison darts out, killing reporters and poisoning people and doing all anywhere he wants. And yet the United States and the giant military CIA infiltrated into everything can't touch a dude in an embassy of a third world nation in downtown London. I don't buy it.
Maybe that's where they learn their lesson, that they're going to try to go through the legal process with an individual instead of just dropping a bomb on their heads, which is the planned and used method throughout many countries elsewhere in the world. Anyone that's an enemy of the United States gets a bomb dropped on them. Even American citizens in some cases.
Well, no, that's sort of what I mean is I think we get stuck a lot as we're looking at it through the lens of our limited ability to perceive information, right? Just on the electromagnetic spectrum. I've never bought in. That's always seemed odd to me. That like, oh, you're like, and then I really dig into like what Assange is and where he comes from, and that he's the kid of some weird cult out of Australia, dude. He's not just some like, garden variety dude who's broken ranks like that. He's like a weirdo in his own thing. So I almost think that he's like another guilty psyop. Right. Another thing where like people that are trying.
You could say it's a limited hangout operation to some degree. So the idea there is that if you're an evil intelligence agency, and the people are coming after you for your evil doings, well, why not just leak a degree of that stuff out publicly? Let people get all angry and riled up about that small little thing that you've released, while in the background you're still doing 55,000 other things, right, which are more evil and worse. So you kind of just throw out some treats to the I guess ravenous dogs that are at the door, and you let them fight over the dog treats, but you never really get the real meat of the situation. I mean, I think there is some degree of legitimacy to that. But overall, I think what it came to represent, kind of just as an idea, even if you remove Assange from the equation, it came to represent an idea that was actually extremely damaging to American foreign policy and how American foreign policy operates. And it, I think, had the potential to act as a foundation for a really strong anti-war movement. And you see that really did start to happen after the collateral murder video was released, the 40-minute Apache helicopter attack, which killed anywhere from 12 to 20 people, including kids. A couple of Reuters journalists killed in that one. So yeah, it could have, even if it was the limited hangout thing, it also could have spiraled out of control to a degree, which I think it did. And I think the American state finally realized that, and that's why it decided to pursue him to the degree that it has done, with all of these charges that only came in 2018 and 2019. So all this stuff is very recent.
That's all orange. It's all orange man, like that's again is everybody's big like orange man's going to save the day thing is a giant. So maybe Assange lingers around just for those of us who are paying attention to just be like, yeah, dude, don't, anyone who's not willing to save, look into this is to be questioned too. Cause he's a pretty vanilla character in my book. I've never been that big of a WikiLeaks guy in that sense. I've never really seen the big aha, like what it's done. Like even the thing with, like, again, it's like even the thing with it wasn't WikiLeaks, the Panama Papers.
I'm not sure if that was WikiLeaks.
See, the Panama Papers to me are almost way more interesting because Zelensky's caught up in the Panama Papers. Like they're all in the Panama Papers, but the Panama Papers have faded. Like again, is I mean, WikiLeaks' big thing is Chelsea Manning, right? Like, and Chelsea Manning's an interesting character. is an interesting character. Let's just say that could only come from Casting Central, the whole Chelsea Manning thing. Because Chelsea Manning's dating someone interesting, right? I forget who Chelsea Manning's dating right now.
I have no idea.
Oh, no, it's not. Oh, you'll be like, wait a minute. I forgot. It's
And yeah, I don't think this was WikiLeaks.
The Panama paper.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Yeah. You know who Chelsea Manning's dating? You don't, do you? It's going to make perfect sense when I say it. Elon Musk's ex.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Immediately for you, the alarm bells just rang.
No, it's
red alert.
It's that thing because to me, that's what I'm getting at is the more and more I'm looking into, the more and more this is obviously we're in some sort of crazy script. I won't go so far as the simulation thing and all that kind of stuff, but the more and more I'm looking at the thing, like sort of peripherally as versus staring, because when I stare right into it, it looks different than when I just kind of let it do its thing on the side, right? And it goes back to this interest. There's something, if you peripherally look at what's going on in Eastern Europe, right, with all this stuff, that it isn't what it appears to be. Yes, it is what it appears to be. It's the complete and total rubblization of a modern society with the primitive societies, like second world society, we're all wrapped in there, right? And what it was like, it's that thing of just, it's too dumb. I don't know how to describe it except that is like, it's just sort of dumb. It goes back to our first conversation we had about it. It looked dumb from the beginning. It seems dumb right now. Yeah, like people are taking it on the chin. Like, you don't want to be caught in the dumb circle because you will be sacrificed to the dumbness of it all. Mm-hmm. But there's something deeper going on right now on the planet and in the grid. And the military industrial, it's this thing. For example, they were shipping over train loads out of, I think it was Czechoslovakia or maybe whatever, one of those countries. They were sending up a train sending the Ukrainians their old Soviet tanks. And I'm like, dude, like, does anyone get that this is just a hardware burn off? That this is this is a hardware burn off to just basically get rid of all the scrap. A bunch of people need to play be on the chessboard for this, and that the bigger picture isn't. I'm gonna go so far as 6 weeks into it is to flip the whole script and go, maybe Putin's white hat in the whole thing, and he's just exposing the West for truly how evil they are. Because I don't see anything in the West doing anything to stop Putin except harming the people of the West.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the point on the military hardware is something that, yeah, I've kind of been coming back to again and again. That's absolutely what is going on with a lot of these nations. Well, they're thinking, well, let us donate these 50, 100 tanks that are probably like 50 years old, if not older, 50, 60, 70 years old. We'll send those over to Ukraine. And then the military industrial complex will roll around with a nice, shiny new contract for us to take some new deliveries of American weapons. Yeah, that's absolutely what's going on in a lot of these places, I think. That's an underlying ulterior motive that's absolutely playing out here. I think the idea generally that there are forces in the world that benefit from war, this is a fact that people in the Western world seemingly cannot get into their heads. They just can't understand that a military industrial complex can exist. They can't think through the idea that, hey, maybe wars actually serve certain groups within society, and perhaps those groups actually sit in very significant positions within our governments. Perhaps they actually control a large degree of what our governments do. And until we generally spread that message and get it out there, we're going to be stuck in this cycle of violence, which I think you're really alluding to here. And we need to somehow remove this this collection of interests from their position of power. Do we want to be able to defend ourselves? Yes, that's useful. Do we need $800 billion being funneled into the military-industrial complex this coming year, thanks to Biden's request to continually boost the size of the military budget? I don't think so. I don't think that's really helping anything. But still, I've seen articles over the past week that have said Biden's budget is not big enough. It's not spending enough on the military. 800 billion is just not enough. Should be 900 billion. Should it be $1 trillion? Should it be 2 trillion? I mean, it just borders on ridiculous.
I got to get my battery. I'm going to run out. Wait, hold on.
Okay, no worries. But yeah, the point being, overall, everyone, there needs to be some degree of a reckoning on this. I think your average American doesn't have a clue that there's this much money that's being spent on the military forces. As much as Americans love their military and support the soldiers and all this sort of stuff, salute the flag, I don't think the average American really understands this, just how much money is being spent here, and perhaps what else that money could be doing, because there's, like I've mentioned before, there's a lot of problems in the US that $800 billion could fix. Even not all of that, right? If you just halve that, $400 billion, imagine that being spent on things within the United States that are not the military. Imagine what the roads might look like, what the bridges might look like. Perhaps there could be a greater healthcare system in the United States. One of the only countries in the world that doesn't have a healthcare system for its citizens. And the US also has never had a peace dividend. This has never happened in the United States. The government has never turned around and said, time to stop spending money on the military industrial complex, time to spend that money on the people. That has literally never happened in the United States. The American people just are continually tricked and pushed into these pathways, which get us into this situation. 800 billion being spent on the military. And yeah, I don't know what you will do to remedy this problem, but there needs to be some referendum on this in the United States. After World War II, for instance, in Britain, Britain basically stopped all of its military spending and sent that money into the creation of a social welfare system. It actually did spend on the people. Are there pros and cons to those sorts of systems? Yes. Do I want a complete nanny state? No. But is there some degree of responsibility that a modern democratic government has to its people beyond simply just saying that, hey, you can vote and you can have free speech? I think if we really want to develop as an advanced species, we have to go far beyond this, and we do have to spend money on people.
So this is where I think where I bumped. I think I was trying to get to this a second ago, but I didn't really know where I was. So where I've gone the whole as an anti-war guy, right? I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but I don't. But like, I'm like pro-war in a certain sense of like, do it. Stop with the rules. Like what I've noticed on this one, and the big thing that people keep yipping and yapping about is rules. There's the rules of wars, the Geneva Convention, the rules, war crimes, the war crimes. And it's this weird thing is as long as there's rules, we're legitimizing it. We're tacitly supporting it. And I go, how about there be no rules? And how about we get real ugly? And like really like when it's that thing of like, I mean, straight out of you couldn't make it up if you tried, like the bomb at the train station that says this is for the children, right? Okay, that isn't brutal enough from my perspective. If we want to end this continual savagery on our planet, is let's show people, let's let people get really as brutal as they want to, and because I think that's the thing is let everyone take a real good look at it for a second and be like, oh yeah, that's right there, yeah, that's it, yeah, there's basements full of carcasses and snipers in trees blasting people on the streets. Is that a war crime? No, it's called war. The crime is that there were rules put into place that sort of said, well, you can have a war as long as you operate in these fashions. So I go, to me, it's a war crime for a manufactured military industrial product to infiltrate a civilian product on any level. So the minute a piece of military industrial complex government issued hardware shrapnels and enters the side of someone's building, as far as I'm concerned, that's a war crime. And you want to have wars and be rules, then no, dude, you don't get to just go in and rebelize. Like it's okay to like, we're only going to get alarmed about it if there's like 10 people dead in a basement with their hands improperly tied. But we're not going to be like, the whole war crime was that we allowed this whole community to get mowed, like all their buildings and infrastructure, and we scatter these people into the wind. That's not a war crime though, because and then just the hypocrisy of like, I don't get how people can even like hear this, like, oh, a sovereign, like the invasion of a sovereign state by another state. It's like, you mean us? We've sat back in this country and allowed and okayed the invasion of sovereign states my entire life, man. And
so have the British as well.
And the French and the world.
Let me just quickly throw my own people under the bus for 5 minutes.
Well, I don't think it's throwing anyone under the bus. It's I think the thing that everyone needs to like come to terms with is what war is.
And it's what like we spoke about before, this is the focus of my PhD stuff. And those few words that I mentioned at the end of the last show we did, death robots for peace and democracy, right? The death robots are totally fine as long as they're allegedly spreading peace and democracy, which is the rhetoric that they're wrapped up in, along with flags, national flags, and people just buy into this stuff. They buy into it like they buy into their football teams, but they don't, like you're kind of alluding to, realize the true consequences of what it means to go to war. And in the 1990s is really where a lot of this stuff started, this revolution in military affairs, which comes out of the Pentagon. And it's claiming that all of the latest, greatest technologies of the 1990s, they're going to make war faster. So it's going to be over quicker. We're going to be more accurate with our targeting. We're going to be able to conduct smart warfare. Therefore, it's going to be a moral warfare because we're only going to hit the right people. But as you're kind of alluding to, should we be thinking about hitting any people is really the problem. And there's one one quote here, which I think is worth mentioning. This is from my my presentation and one of my PhD chapters that looks at the WikiLeaks releases, and specifically that collateral murder video. Have you ever seen that? Collateral murder. Yeah, you probably have it. I would recommend go back and try and find it and watch a bit of it if you can. But yes, these are attack helicopters attacking this group of people in Iraq, and when the attack is over, some American soldiers respond to it. Afterwards, two of these guys, Ethan McCall and Josh Stieber, they're two of the soldiers on the ground that actually went into the zone that had just been attacked. And they're part of the squad that's trying to figure out what the hell has just happened here, what's going on. And they see the reality of war, which we're kind of alluding to here. And one thing that Ethan McCall said in an interview, and remember, keep in mind as I read this quote, what is the technology being sold to us as? Just, moral, smart, spreading peace, spreading democracy, all this sort of stuff. This is the fantastic revolution in military affairs that we get. Well, McCall said, I had never seen anybody shot by a 30 millimeter round before. And quite frankly, I don't ever want to see that again. It almost seemed unreal, like something out of a bad B horror movie. When these rounds hit you, they kind of explode. People with their heads half off, their insides hanging out of their bodies, and limbs missing. This is war. It cannot really ever be moral. I don't think it can ever be just. This is the reality of it. And it's like you said, as soon as the bombs start dropping, that's when you've crossed the line, right? Regardless of all this other stuff that we try to dress it all up in this rhetoric and these rules of engagement, rules of war. It's just we need to get away from it.
It's that weird thing. Like I'm even looking at Grateful Ed's comment here is you can't kill non-combatants and children. That's what war is, dude. Mm-hmm. Like that's exactly who you do kill in a war. That's the history of war is the non-combatants and children get killed. Mm-hmm. You can have them killed directly at some train station, or you can starve them to death as they shiver under an overpass in a foreign country where they're refugees. It's the same thing. You're taking someone that was in a house doing what they do and jacking up their life, and that across the love. I don't get the leveling of it. Like, well, you didn't kill them, but you destroyed their entire community. You sent them into the wind with nothing, but they're alive. So that kind of war is okay. But to actually like kill them, it seems almost more humane to just get them out of the picture in a weird way. Is like, well, you look at these people that, again, who knows with any of this stuff. I was watching again some weird vlogger dude, some Ukrainian vlogger dude who was in Kiev, and he was in the hospital interviewing these kids. And he seemed pretty legit because his whole video was just a little piece of it. Didn't have a big, it wasn't about that. It just like, it was part of his like thing he was doing. And they were talking to this one kid, right? And she like her old man got smoked. Okay, like.
But the kid's alive. The
kid's alive, but
therefore there's something positive in there.
She saw her dad get smoked. In the again, as I cannot get behind this whole thing that there's a degrees of acceptability with war. That's more where I'm like had enough of it, is like to listen to people say that there's acceptable measures in this game. To me is unacceptable. I go all in or nothing. If you because people can sit and justify Dresden all day long. It's they had it coming, dude. Yeah, maybe. I don't know, dude. So, okay, let's say that Dresden, how do these, what do people think the sanctions are meant to do? They're not meant to attack the combatants. They're literally meant to starve the children of the combatants. That's what sanctions are designed to do.
So they get angry enough to turn against their government and try to overthrow it.
Yeah. So this thing that children aren't an opportune target in war, I think is a moot issue. It's semantical at best. And I think that everyone needs to stop pretending, and that's how they're getting away with it. From my perception of it is like, oh well, it's justified, and there's war crimes, and they're this, and it's this thing where, like, again, is if you want to play by the games of the rules, having captured soldiers in front of microphones broadcasting messages is a war crime. And everyone seems to overlook that. Every one of those like captured Russian soldiers that's sitting at a press conference going, we were doing this and we were doing that. That's a war crime, technically. If we're playing in the game of rules, the little book of rules, and no one seems to really get that this is all war crimes. It's all crimes against humanity.
Yeah, that's probably the best term for it. A crime against humanity. That's absolutely what it is.
And to me, it's all a giant distraction to get everybody to not pay attention to the big shuffle going on behind the background. While this hand's doing that, So yeah, I don't know. It's that weird thing is just people are sucked into the there's got to be a good team and a bad team to the whole thing. How about we're all on the bad team? How about we're all on the bad team? That this in 2022 rests on every adult's shoulder on this planet. Because we're not doing any, no one's doing anything to stop it. I didn't see Sean Penn melt down his Oscar on Hannity the other day. In fact, I've seen interesting bedfellows, so to speak, of like, I
think I only saw a clip of that. I haven't seen the whole thing. I'll try and find it later and watch it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's gross. It's these people literally. Again, it's gross, the whole thing.
Yeah, I think as a species, we're not collectively very smart about what we do and what we allow our rulers to do in our name.
Well, it's that thing is. That's where I see the big problem is our rulers in our name. Again, is if you're going to give your authority to some other entity, what do you expect, man? I think
it's a point in the United States, though, where you look at it and the amount of authority that has been given up by the citizenry, that it's basically over here to some extent, right? I don't think it's ever coming back. It's never going in the other direction. It's not like tomorrow morning you're going to wake up and see that people like Nancy Pelosi or, I don't know, Mitt Romney on the other side. It's not like you're going to see them. Well, you know what? We've resigned. We've decided that we had too much power, and we've liquidated all of our assets, and we've decided to build shelters in Los Angeles for the hundreds of thousands of homeless people, and we're going to clothe these people, and we're going to put them through college, and it's never going to happen, is it? I think it's almost to a point where it's just, is it even possible to fix this at this point? I think I'm more and more, the more I read this stuff, the more I research it, the more I think about it, the more I write about it and talk about it, Yeah, it's almost like a losing battle. I think it might just be time to, just uproot and head somewhere else, head to an island and start anew.
Well, again, it's I think that it's just reached a point of it wants to be examined. Like it's not hiding anymore. There's no more charades about it. They aren't even trying to be like, back with the 7-Eleven thing, they hid it behind sort of the veil of lack of accessibility to information. It was the evil guys over there. They made up a pretty good prop costume thing. It was a very well done production. And you're like, oh, wow. Like, I don't know. Like, but now there's no pretense that there's even like a good guy in the game. Mm-hmm. It's we're just as bad as that dude, but our bad reason is better than their bad reason. Mm-hmm. And that's going to have to be good enough for you. And I go at this point, like, why is anyone pretending? Mm-hmm. That's where I haven't signed on to the thing. It's like, no, I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to do I have sympathy. No, it's like you sat at the crossroads of this thing. If you didn't know it was coming, I don't know how blind you were to what was going on. Because again, all you got to do is start looking into travel vlogs from 2018 in Ukraine. And they're not clueless. Those people and those are not clueless on mm-hmm. any level that what's coming. Do they think it's going to be tomorrow or 10 years? They don't know, but they know it's coming. So this thing that showed up, you can watch the history of that region of the world and like, did I send you the cartoon one where the dude, it's just like one.
I'm not sure. I don't, you may have done.
I was sending you a bunch of them because one dude does a really good job and he kind of does it in a sort of animated format of just the history of Ukraine going back like 1,000 years, dude. And it's just.
Yeah, I got that one.
One bloody moment versus the next. These aren't who would it be? These aren't a bunch of peaceful people minding their own business in that part of the world. That's not where peaceniks are hanging out growing psychedelic mushrooms, dude. Mm-hmm. It is a part of the world that's bloodthirsty and prone to like huge movements of violence and death and destruction. And that's where I'm like, no, this isn't happening in some peaceful country of mellow people. These are crazy people over there. That's in the hardwired in their genetics, dude. Like you can hide it behind all the discotheques and underground clubs in Kiev you want, dude. But I'm sorry, dude. If you're a Ukrainian and you don't know your history, that's like living in the South of America, not of the United States, and not knowing the history of what's gone on there and be claiming that it's not part of the cultural identity. Mm-hmm. It's like sitting here in California and not knowing about the mission system that came and eradicated the original people. And then the Mexican American ranchos that were up here, dude. And then that the California was almost a slave state. It's just this weird, like, no, at any moment, like, the whole thing could go sideways, dude. Like, we're not peaceful people. Mm-hmm. We're not peaceful. I'm not a peaceful person. I absolutely, that's why I advocate against war all day long. I'm not a peaceful person. I've said it as many times as I possibly could say, is like, you don't want to turn a bunch of lunatics like me loose out there, because I have no qualms about doing it. Like, and you're telling me that there ain't a bunch of people over there who's like closer, like I'm not close to it. You know what I mean? My parents weren't involved with that. My grandparents weren't involved with that. My grandfather was a fighter pilot in the Battle of Britain. So maybe different kind of a thing, sort of glorified version of it all. But what I'm saying is, like, I don't live in that like generational touch to bloodshed. But I'm just as like, wouldn't bother me. If you wanted to turn on the spigot of ultra violence, and I'm lining people up against the wall, all of them. Because I know the thing, dude, you don't let the children survive, dude. Like, that's rule number one. If you're going to do this stuff, dude, you got to take out the children too. You couldn't have my boy avenging me, dude. That'd be insane. He would.
Yeah, and you just look at all the historical examples of where anything like this has happened, and yeah, it's always just a complete disaster. And if you think back to just anything of any really form of globalism in particular, it's just been completely disastrous in terms of world affairs. Anytime that a group has thought, you know what, let's try and take over the world for our supposedly better set of values than everyone else, well, that's never gone that way at all, has it? It's always gone in the direction of complete disaster. And yeah, this fracturing of the world, definitely not bringing it closer.
But wait a minute, let me show you this, dude. Because when you say that, like, I almost argue a different way, is when you get to the fact that there's only 9 shipping container companies on the planet, dude. And that globalism is in fact been working smoothly for a long, long time. And it hasn't been a disaster. That's what I mean is
well, it kind of depends though, right? On, do you want to be in the slave factory making the iPods?
Well, that's where I think what I'm getting at is, I think that gets into the spiritual thing, right? Where again, we as people that have a clear lens on it, right? That can sit and babble about it, that are educated, that don't have to spend our time toiling away in the Foxconn factory or making cheap plastic toys to go to wherever. We don't take our responsibility very seriously, and we shirk our duty, right? It doesn't mean that it's not working. It's just the rub is that it's doable, but we keep seeing ourselves through the lens of this duality, if you will, right? When you could free up the people in the Foxconn factories, absolutely, and have it all still working and the thing. But like, nobody wants to actually take responsibility for their own actions in the thing. You know, it's pretty easy just to go and throw it in the trash, right? And not make it, not like again, is just going to Goodwill today. I was just watching people. I went to drop off some stuff at Goodwill today, and I'm just like marveling at the amount of stuff there is. So what is it? I think it's on a certain level, it's artificial, and it's manufactured because they've tricked people into moving away from their agrarian life and the basic template that was working so well that It's an interesting conundrum because you do get into feudalism and the whole thing, and that sucked too. So I go, maybe war freed us all. That's the weird twist, right? Is the reason we get to sit here and babble on YouTube about it because the war machine pounds people into sand all over the planet, or would we be, forced to like do the same thing too in a textile factory in Birmingham or Charlotte, North Carolina, or Boston, 150 years ago? How do we get here? Because my grandfather got on a boat and left Eastern Europe, right? He split Bohemia and came here with the whole family, dude. My other parents split the UK and came over to Canada after the war for the same, to get out of the way of that thing too. So it's all very convoluted in that sense. Like, and I don't know if again, I don't think that we're seeing it for what it is, because it's so visceral and like most people don't even care. Like,
yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that I've been trying to deal with recently. So how do you even get people to care about this stuff when there's just so many other distractions that have completely melted the brains of I'd say probably the vast majority of the population at this point.
Well, it's that thing of you won't care till it comes for you, right? And until it comes for you, you don't know. And I think that the people that do care, it's not because we don't have anything better to do. It's that we truly understand the thin veneer of society, right? That there's just a paper thin veneer that keeps this whole thing going. And it ain't peace either. It's the threat of violence, right? Like, I do think there's a certain level of the statistics bear it out is in America, especially, is, the more armed you are, the safer your community is, man. And that's just because you have responsible people that are like, look, dude, I got no beef with it, dude. I'm going to lay you out, man. I'm gonna straight lay you out, dude. Right in my driveway, dude. Come in here, dude, and mess with me. That's it. Game over, dude. And does violence make you safe? Have we ever known peace? I mean, you think about, like, most people don't even know about Pax Romana, dude. Like, I mean, think about that. Like, most people like don't even know what like Pax Romana was, dude, and just like what that must have been, the 200 years of peace. But it wasn't really peace. You look at what Harden's Wall in the UK. You look at what was going on the fringe of Pax Romana for 200 years was brutal atrocities inflicted by the Roman Empire, all on its borders, But you're sitting in the middle of it, man. You're popping grapes and getting massages and going to orgies, dude. Like, yeah, bitching, man. Let's get some plumbing into this villa, dude.
Yeah, then it did eventually all fall apart though, and then all that stuff entirely lost. All of these.
Yeah, but if you were in the middle of it, like, let's say
that's kind of funny that you put it like that, because that's actually how that whole instance of Rome actually really came to an end, because it split into all of these different estates. And the estates became so self-contained that everything outside of them just fell apart. And they just fell apart the seams because all the estates cared about was what happened on the estate. They didn't care about anyone else. They didn't care about the overall system that they'd created. It was just these self-contained little ecosystems, and that's where the activity was. The overall system collapsed as a result of that.
Well, yeah, it's easy to See, that's why I like as an anti-war person, I don't believe in peace. I don't think peace truly exists if it doesn't exist in the center of you first, right? Like it has to exist within you.
It's interesting that even if you think about Ronald Reagan's famous statement where when he came out and said, I often wonder if there is an alien attack, how quickly the world would put aside all of its differences and come together. But then what he kind of ends it with is that they would come together to face the threat. So not that we would come together in peace and offer peace to the aliens, but we would come together to fight the aliens.
Well, I think we got a good look at that, though. That's the beauty of the last couple of years. We did. The little green man came from inner space, paralyzed the planet, and everybody turned on each other and said, "Do something about them over there." And as long as it doesn't affect me, shut it all down, dude. And I think that's where it goes is no, at the end of the day, dude, like we all could, dude, I was watching I was going back because it's how long ago it was. Remember all the glorified footage coming out of like the Ukraine? You had that one senator or representative, the somewhat attractive blonde chick with their Kalashnikov going, yeah, I was like, wonder what happened to her, man. And you had all these like big talkers like, yeah, we're gonna defend this and that. And now they're
John McCain and Lindsey Graham. They were the big two.
Not even the Americans. I'm talking about the people in the Ukraine. Like remember the first footage, like the first week was like, it was pretty like everything intact and like shocking. And they're going to the brewery making Molotov cocktails. And
oh, you're talking about recently? I thought you meant back in 2014.
No, I'm talking about now when they did the first PSYOP, when it began is like the glamorizing it all and all of these people, all these Ukrainian politicians and their glory with their thing. And I go, yeah, go stand by the pile of rubble now. And go stand by those crazy things from the streets of just, I mean, I don't think, again, is the odd thing is with all the footage with the cameras and stuff, you're telling me we can't watch one of these like battles in one of these cities for like 7 weeks time lapse sped up and just be like, holy smoke, there it was. And there it
that'll
goes.
probably happen. That will probably happen eventually. And yeah,
because that's what people need to see. People need to stop getting this like, oh, there's the street with all the like blown up tanks and some dead dudes over there. No, how about you guys just watch the utter chaos and just because now you can see like there's just the trucks in the telephone poles and the stuff everywhere and the stuff everywhere. And you're like, geez, what a mess, man. Being
there and being in that moment as all of that is going on is not where anyone would want to be. That is hell on earth.
Anyone sitting there back in the day 6 weeks ago promoting it as some sort of like Yahoo rad thing, like, I'm sorry, man. Like, no, dude. Look at it now, dude.
I saw a few reports on the Foreign Legion that kind of came together. All the people from like the UK and the US that went over there. They found out that they were being immediately kind of shipped to the front line, or it was you've just arrived, but they don't have anything for you. They don't have a weapon for you. They don't have gear for you. There's nothing. It's just, good luck.
Well, it's that thing of like the dummy mentality of it all is like how about you see that go over there and you begin to change your own life at home. I mean, in the last 6 weeks, I've radically am altering my entire life to get away from everything that I'm talking about, because it's easy to sit and talk about it, but like I'm like about to, like, I'm like fully up, like, dude, can I do this? Like, how am I gonna, like, yeah, I trip on it. Like how do you shift the paradigm of the thing? And it's like, yeah, we got to go back to the land. We got to get out of these urban grids that are sucking the life out of all these places around the planet, and do the thing. And wait, here, let me show you this, because I don't know if dude, I saw this like 3 days ago and it blew my mind, dude. Have you seen this?
No, I have no idea what that is.
Dude, that's the Starlink satellite map.
Oh, wow.
No, dude. Those are all the Starlink satellites that are up in space right now. You can go at the Maps Interactive. You can go and you can get, there's each satellite with their number and their tracking. You can click on the satellite, get their course, their data, where they're going, how long, their altitude, their traveling plane, their launch date, all of it, dude. That's all crazy. Right here. And the reason it was when you said globalism, dude, it's global. The globalism is here in quadruplicate. So anyone saying that what's going on, and this is what I'm getting, I guess, to go real time with you. That's what I'm getting at. It's a scam. You're telling me that you can't do this on a planet without every leader signing up for this stuff. There's nowhere on here that they aren't Rome. They're everywhere. They're over China, Mongolia. Look at all of them, dude. They're everywhere, right? Every leader's in on this. Every corporation's in on this. Look at all of those.
Yeah. Also, if you think that's not a military project and this is just to bring access to YouTube to the sub-Saharan African countries, you're living in fantasy land. This is going to be the military control grid of the future that you're looking at right here.
Oh no! Look, that you can click on the ground-based setups, dude. There's the Boca Chica, Texas satellite array right there. You can look at them moving around, dude. Like, so again, is where I go to this thing is that there is still war going on this planet in 2022. And this is going on at the same time. The Lego Corporation's going on, and I'll just keep going on and on about the Lego Corporation. The Lego Corporation is flawless, global, and they're shipping bricks, man. And I'm not buying into this like thing they got us thinking that this is some sort of sacrificial lamb going on here. This has got nothing to do with these people here, except they're cashing the check on them. They're the check. And it's got something more to do with something else. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to put it's like it's right there in the side of my head, dude. But I don't think that it's real. And I mean, I know it's real, but I don't think that it's real.
It's not really in how they're selling it to us. I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
This is definitely not to bring cat videos to where you hovering over there. What is that? What nation is that? Wherever that is. We're not
this right here. That's the Ukraine.
Oh, that's Ukraine right there. Cool. Yeah, so this is not to bring cat videos to Ukraine.
It's not.
This is something else.
Well, that's again is people aren't paying attention to the things that really affect their life. You get into this thing with the fertilizers and the phosphate. The Peak Prosperity did a pretty good breakdown about the NPK the other day, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphate, and the limited supply of the phosphate, and how that's supposed to globally run out here pretty soon, and that the whole gas thing's just a ruse, so we're not paying attention to the real problem, which is this other stuff. And then you get into this thing where like nobody's paying attention to what's going on with the poultry, man, around the planet right now.
I don't think I am. Enlighten me.
So you got to go. Ice Age Farmer's pretty good. And all Ice Age Farmer does is focus in on like commodities type stuff to keep us like, he's one of us, dude, just to make you aware. So he's been doing a thing about how they're using the Carrie Mullen's test. I don't know if you can say it on YouTube, the test on the chickens, and they're beginning to, the chickens are testing positive for like bird flus. So they're like in North.
I saw a headline about that a couple of days ago.
Yeah, North Carolina, I think they shut down something off like 5 million chickens. And in Germany, they say they might not have enough eggs because the farm to table initiative in the EU is kicking in. And so, as all this stuff goes on, there's other things at play where I go, you think the war in Ukraine's the war, but that's not the war. That's just the show. Yeah, people are like the thing is, it sucks. Yeah, people are taking it on the chin, dude. Like people are getting jacked up. Their nice little homes are getting blasted, dude. But they're getting blasted to keep everybody off the eyes of the prize and justify their excuse, because no way is the punishment for the evil dude they say is launching that is for all of us to suddenly suffer. Doesn't make any sense, right? Like,
yeah, I think the overall problem is like we've kind of been alluding to. I think it's beyond just this as an issue. It's to do with us as a species failing to live up to our true potential. This is what we're creating, right? This satellite system that you can see here, which is like I said, this is not to bring cat videos to the developing world. This is something far beyond that. far beyond that.
Well, and that's where I struggle to try to like wrap my head around. Was it because this is almost why there wouldn't need to, why the war thing's obsolete too. Mm-hmm. Right? If the elites and the big minds are all trying to stick us into a computer program or whatever, cyber eugenicize us, war doesn't serve a purpose either. I mean, they could literally, and so I get to like this weird thing where it keeps circling back to me is it's all voluntary, the whole thing. And again, the interesting thing, why Ukraine, I think you had one of the places on the planet that had fully signed up for this and said, and we're like, this is what we do. This is what we're about. We've been doing it for every 50 years or so. We do this here. It's pretty standard rebelizing and atrocities. And the thing is they're pretty well known for it. It's what they do. And so we're going to need to do it again to get everybody's off the page so that they'll be willing to comply for this other stuff. So we can get this other thing going. Yeah,
and I think the shift to space force and space-based weapons, all this is going to be a very significant issue going forward, and something that we need to keep an eye on, a close eye on. The idea that there's going to be weapons in space. Well, I think we might already be looking at those.
It's already right. That whole again, is I mean, look, this to me is ridiculous. Like this thing, I mean, look at the line. It's just of the line. I trip on, what are the lines for, dude? Like,
yeah, I'm assuming that's their areas that they're trying to provide nonstop service.
No, that thing's moving, dude. That's what I mean. These lines are, the line ones are moving. Like there's this one cruising across. There's one down here. Like, what do you need? What do you need a bunch of satellites over the Pacific for, dude? You know, there's nothing out there. I mean, Hawaii's up here where that honeycomb is, that nice flower is.
Did you see the International Space Station was just filled with private astronauts? The first ever 100% private space mission took off.
Oh yeah, when was this?
A couple of days ago, I think.
Ah, see, they don't even hype that stuff anymore. It's so ridiculous.
But yeah, space being taken over by private entities, private corporations, all this sort of stuff. So if you think you have no control over your government now, well, just wait, because it's getting even further and further away from being able to control any of this stuff.
I don't see. I don't buy in. I don't buy it. I'm not seeing it. Like as a person who's like, all right, like I don't see it. You can say there's a bunch of dudes in an International Space Station. You can show me this little map with the things moving around and the cartoon launches from Texas, and you know, we see them here. I ain't seeing it, man. I'm not seeing their game. I think it's all a fraud. The whole thing, I think, is giant, just fraud. I mean, unless you're unlucky enough to catch the tank in the living room, but
yeah, exactly.
But I think you can get one of those dropped off there too. I think you can get anything you want right now. Right? I think that's the weird trip with the whole gig. And I think the controllers are super hyper aware of it. And they're like, all right, like, let's see what they want and let's give them what they want. And it's like, if you want these things, like I'm going to make the video here pretty, like in like 2 weeks, where it's like literally like I called the tune like 5 years ago, where I'm like, okay, like here it is. Like the tune has been called. I think that we call the tunes. And I think that the controllers are hyper aware of it. And they're like trying to like, they're trying to implement the tune calling and be like, okay, like you want to, we'll get you to call the tune we want you to call, because they can't do it without us. I don't think they have the ability to do it. I go back to that weird thing in the 60s where they try to levitate the Pentagon, man. I think they did it. I think the hippies did it. And that's why they started blasting them and dumping cocaine on them, the whole thing. I mean,
that's kind of my point about Assange. I think Assange kind of, to a degree, did it as well. He got enough people questioning this whole military industrial system that they came after him with everything that they possibly could.
But I guess when I say that is, I guess this is where I trip on it, is as a person who was born in 1969, right? I've never wavered from that thing. So like the Assange, like that dude didn't spark any like anti-war movement. Like, in fact, because I was pretty present for all of that. And like that came and went. That's what I mean is Assange is a sympathetic character on principles, right? But as far as like him actually doing anything to put the put the military industrial complex on their heels? I didn't see it. I'll always rally in support of freeing a political prisoner because of like he didn't do anything and it's all a sham. But did he really release any devastating blow to the system? No.
I don't know. Collateral murder is quite a devastating blow.
To who? To what though? The system just took that one. It's like, yeah, so what?
Mm-hmm.
So what? Yeah, with duh. Like, okay, like it's that weird thing. It's like that weird thing of yeah, where did you think the chickens came? Where did you think the chicken breast came from? Like, yeah, we don't show the chicken processing plant. Like, yeah, like when PETA goes and has the dudes go in and do the other undercover thing at the chicken processing plant, you don't see Tyson Food going. They're like, yeah, that's what's going on there. I know we don't.
I don't know. They don't really say that. They try and do everything they possibly can to fill that stuff up.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is
been particularly bad about that.
But what I'm getting at is it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
That is what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like people aren't going to stop eating chicken because they suddenly like, yeah, maybe you lose a couple. Like, geez, yeah, I didn't know. Like, oh my God, like that's brutal, dude. Like, I'm gonna get my free range chicken instead. But at the end of the day, yeah, they're covering it up because like it's just that's what they do, right? Like I think you have a bunch of dudes who work in that infrastructure that are like, they don't care. They're like, I get paid to cover that up. Like, that's how I justify my job. Does the corporation care whether everyone sees the dirty video? No, but there's a dude who's making like $500K a year who's got a lawyer firm and the whole thing who's like, I care because that PETA guy just justified my job. If I make a big deal about the video getting out, I got job security for me and my crew. Does it matter at the end of the day? Like, how many of these videos have we seen of? It's like when that Hayden Panettiere chick released the videos getting slaughtered and the dolphins getting slaughtered in Japan. Like, yeah, like people are horrified, but the Japanese are like, and yeah, so what? All right, the video's out there now. Yeah, we do that. You know what? We're gonna fully cop to it, and we don't like that it's out there, and we're gonna put the wall up, but like that's what we're doing. Like, okay. I don't, it's like this thing with the war thing. It's like, oh my God, like there's people getting their arms tied behind their back and shot in the back of the head and like dismembered children. It's like, that's not going to stop them. Like, what you think that the war crimes people are going to, yeah, they might bust some crazy colonel like My Lai Village or something, but go listen to the enlisted soldiers who did the killing at My Lai Village under that command, and they'll tell you straight up once they uncorked, that was it. Have you watched the documentary about My Lai?
Mm-hmm.
It's that black dude who talks about like, yeah, once I crossed that line, I didn't care anymore.
That guy killed himself.
Yeah, I'm horrified. I'm traumatized about it. And then his own kid gets killed in front of his house by the neighbor, dude. Like, and he's like, yeah, once I did the first one, I didn't care anymore. The line had been crossed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we're up against, man, is nobody cares because we all know
that's overall, that's probably a good point to probably end on, I think. So if we do want this stuff to matter, then we have to do something about it. We have to make it matter. We have to get a movement going that makes it matter, that does actually change how things operate, because otherwise, yeah, we're just going to be stuck in this vicious cycle.
You want to know how I think you do it? I think you broadcast it live, no filters, 24/7, no rules. You remove all the little like fake rules, and you broadcast it full blown. You put live streaming cameras on all the tanks and on all the soldiers and all the buildings and everywhere, and you just run it live stream on the thing, and you go, this is exactly what it looks like, dude. And you take all the rules away from it. You don't say there's any off limits. You go, because there aren't.
A great kind of example of this, there's a documentary series it was on Netflix, I don't know if it's still on there, called Einsatzgruppen, the Nazi brigade that was responsible for the mass murders throughout Europe, and they have all the footage of everything that those guys did. And yeah, that will shock you into seeing the reality of the naked women and children marched into pits and
outside of Kiev. I mean, that's what people don't get. Like, Kiev's not some random city. I mean, that is where I think
the big one in Ukraine was called Baba Yar or something like that. I don't remember the precise name of it, but yeah, it is one of the worst ones.
30,000 of them in the pit. I read. Dude, reading it's even crazier, dude.
Oh yeah, I haven't read stuff on that, but other things I have.
Dude, I read some crazy book. I forget what it was. Some crazy Nazi book about some doctor, something. It was like a real. It was nonfiction, and dude, he's like a lieutenant or something, and he's the 1 minute break here, dude.
Sorry, I wanted to grab a book.
Factories of Death, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying is we've been here, we've done this, and it's the only reason that this is happening again is because people choose to put their head in the sand and pretend that that's not what we do. And that we don't, and you go read any of these dudes who participated in that stuff in the middle level, not your Himmlers and Goebbels types. The middle dudes, the dude, like, so the one book I read was from about I think the dude was a doctor or something, or a lawyer or something. And he was like, got sucked in, and he was like a lieutenant of this unit that got sent out to Ukraine and the thing. And this dude's struggling to like keep his thing. And he's like one of these dudes that's got like the execution squad going, and he's killing the people, and he's got the troops, and he's doing the thing, and there's a whole psychology about how to do it, and he gets into the whole thing. And this dude's not some like abstract. He's like just another one of us that was like, all right, fuck it, man. Like, this is what we got to do. Shit. All right. Like, okay. Like, what else am I gonna, like, I don't have a choice here. And so we've done all this. That's what I mean is the rules thing. That so the big thing out of World War II, to end this thing, Stuart, is the big thing out of World War II was like, we're gonna make rules. We can't have it be so brutal. Okay, well, rules don't work. The rules haven't worked. So how about we go back to the utter barbarism of it all and go, what, Rwanda wasn't good enough for everybody? People just hacking each other apart with machetes, dude, because of land issues? You know.
Yeah, this is a crazy one. I haven't read this yet, but before and during World War II, Japanese scientists conducted experiments on live human beings in a quest to develop a biological warfare program. Their efforts led to the first wartime use of anthrax, smallpox, and the plague. But while the horror of similar Nazi experiments paled in comparison, the scientists, the Japanese scientists, that is, were granted immunity from American prosecution for war crimes in exchange for the results of the experiments.
Well,
welcome to reality.
Welcome to reality. Well, yeah, and even that reality, the Japanese during World War II made the Nazis look like cream puffs because they were super invested in it. Like they were like, no, they were not screwing around. Like your average person was like all in, dude. Like people are blind to like what humans are all about, man. And we could really be about some really cool stuff too, man. Like,
that's the really sad thing.
Ultimately why we have these talks, is because we know this, but we have to get the ugly truth has to get expelled or exposed or looked at, because I think people are just living in the clouds if they don't think that this is organized. And
yeah, maybe we can do that as a theme for the next one of these, the horrors of war. I have quite a lot of notes on that sort of thing. We can just go through it systematically, the human devastation that we've caused on one another for these many different
well, where do you start? I mean, for me, the one that seems to be getting swept under the table in our society, the American society, is the Civil War, dude. Like, you don't need
I haven't really ever properly studied the American Civil War.
Did you dig into the Civil War, man? And that's why they don't talk about it anymore, dude. The Civil War is gnarly, like brutal, because it's so much. They've dumbed it down into this dumb simple thing, and it's so much more deep about what it really is and what really was going on, and how just because all the generals that fought in the Civil War against each other in the North and the South, they all fought together in the Mexican American War before the Civil War. So all the generals on both sides, they all knew each other and had fought alongside of each other against the Mexicans. And they had all gone to military school together too. So these weren't like opposing military minds from different schools. They all came from the same school of thought, and they all knew each other, and they all knew what each other was capable of. And if you really read into like these guys at the beginning,
mean like Russians and Ukrainians, maybe.
but not even in like they all went to the same like thing. Like you could argue that those were broken up. No, they all came from the same thing. And when you get into the deal, like when you read about why Lincoln frees the slaves, right? The Emancipation Proclamation, he doesn't do it because he's a nice guy. Lincoln frees the slaves, and he does it a lot later than he wanted to. He wanted to free the slaves a lot earlier because he wanted them to be a behind-the-scenes guerrilla army to do the thing. He was hoping that they would turn on their slave masters in the thing, but the joke was that the Northerners, because the North still had its pro-slavery states in the thing. Like it wasn't this whole thing. It was about slavery. Yes, it was on the issue, but what it really was about was that issue was the catalyst for what it was about. And Lincoln wasn't a good dude on any level, dude. Lincoln was totally a fucking jacked up lunatic, man, and did some really dark things, and they all were. But these generals at the beginning, as the war is developing, they were like, dude, Stonewall Jackson's got to read up on Stonewall Jackson and Black Flag, because a lot of these dudes, these generals were like, look, dude, let's have a Black Flag war. And what they were saying was, we need to have a war where there's no rules and we kill everybody because it'll be over quicker. And people will see the horrors of war and it won't get drawn out. If we do this like traditional military stuff, it'll lag on forever and people will really suffer. Let's go in and take no prisoners and just rubbleize, dude, and kill everybody. And because their whole thing was, we don't want to do war. These generals had fought and seen war. They knew what it was. And they were like, we don't want to do this. But if we're going to do it, let's get it over with quickly and let's make it as brutal as possible. And that's where the politicians got involved and were like, nah, dude, like, man, and, you know, drags out for years. And it's brutal, dude. I'd study the Civil War is fascinating because it really gets a lens into like, because right at that same time the Civil War is going on, you got to remember, like, California's in play, the West is in play, they're still expanding, the plains have not been settled. So while the United States is freeing the slaves, they're also codifying genocide in the United States Congress of the Plains Indians, dude, at the same time. So the big thing that you hear everybody talking about is one of my main issues is until America comes to terms with its genocidal truths, we don't have a leg to stand on. Like, we got to own what we did. Yeah, that's after the fact, because these things are set into motion. It's like, we sat back in the White House and we're like, man, those guys, they're in our way and they're savages and they get to go. They're out and we're going to do everything. We're going to eradicate them.
And they practically codified
did. Law, man. So this is not some abstract thing that we as Americans don't get to own. Like, we absolutely do. This is part of who we are. And I say make peace with it and understand what we are. That's why I'm a huge anti-war person, is because I know that this is the culture this is who we are underneath. We are savage killing machines. That is the culture of America, dude. That is what the stars and bars are all about, dude. It's not about bringing peace. It's about bringing bloodshed and chopping up children and doing what we need to do to get ours, dude. But, you know, till we face that truth, we'll be sitting here perpetuating it continually.
Exactly.
Right on, my brother. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, it was a good one. Yeah, glad to be here as always. Always good to talk to you. And
I'm gonna get all dialed in when we get up there, dude. So,
how long are you got to go until you're gonna be?
We get up there in a week from now. We're officially up there, but I'm having a little trouble. I don't know, but the internet thing's not solved yet because we are rural. So I could be blacked out.
Or you could use, you could just call up Elon Musk and just jump.
Yeah, I already looked into it. You couldn't get one until 2023. So you look into the thing, it's $99, $100 a month. And the dish costs, you got to get a little dish. It costs like $600.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, dude. You got to pay your deposit now, dude. The genius hustle.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, good night, Stuart. All right, stay. Links to Stuart's channel down below, man. Give him a subscribe, dude. Go check him out.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more energetic in the regular videos. It's about to hit 2 a.m. out here, so I'm about ready.
I'm shot out too, dude.
Yeah, this is for our lowest energy broadcast, but we can bring it back up next
time.
Well,
we're just, you know what it is we're about showing up and staying on a schedule, dude.
Yeah.
And dialing in what we're about. Like I'm going to get more prepared too. I'm living in boxes and chaos, dude. This is the former office.
Yeah, there you go. All gone.
All gone, dude. All right. Good night, Stuart.
Yeah, have a good night, Hamish. See ya.
See ya.